The lifeboats were gone. So was the dinghy. The ship itself was still there, drifting in the Pacific, battered, flooded, and leaning hard to one side. But the 25 people who had been on board were missing. No passengers on deck, no crew in the cabins, no bodies in the water, only a damaged vessel floating where it should not have been, weeks after it disappeared. Her name was Joyita, and when investigators stepped onto her empty deck, they found something worse than a wreck. They found a ship that had survived, but everyone else had vanished, and that was only the beginning. On October 3rd, 1955, Joyita left Apia, Samoa. She was a small inter-island trading vessel, about 70 feet long, bound for the Tokelau Islands. The journey should have been routine, about 2 days across the South Pacific. On board were 16 crew members and 9 passengers. Among them was a government official, a doctor traveling to perform an operation. Medical supplies, food, timber, cargo for the islands. Nothing about the voyage was supposed to become a mystery, but Joyita was not in perfect condition. Her departure had already been delayed because of a failed port engine clutch. She left with only one working engine. Her radio and pump were not trusted. Her condition was poor. Still, Captain Thomas Miller sailed. The sea ahead looked ordinary enough, and sometimes that is where the darkest files begin, with a journey that should have ended quietly. Joyita was expected to arrive on October 5th. She did not. By October 6th, officials in Whakaufo sent the message no island port wants to send. Joyita was overdue. No distress call had been reported. No wreckage had been found. Search aircraft crossed more than 100,000 square miles of ocean. They found nothing. Then, on November 10th, more than a month after Joyita left Samoa, the merchant ship Tuvalu spotted a vessel north of Fiji. At first, it was just a shape on the water. Then, the name came into view. Joyita. She was listing heavily to port. Her railing dipped close to the sea. Windows were broken. The flying bridge was damaged. She had been battered by weather and left to drift. But she had not sunk. Inside, investigators found a ship that looked interrupted. The clocks had stopped at 10:25. The light switches were still on. The radio was tuned to the international distress frequency. The doctor's bag was found with surgical instruments and blood-stained bandages. Someone had been treated, or someone had tried. Someone may have been hurt. Someone may have tried to call for help, but no one had answered, and no one remained to explain why. The first theory was simple. Joyita had flooded. A fractured cooling pipe may have allowed water into the bilges. The pumps were blocked, the lower decks filled. With only one engine, she became hard to control. A heavy swell could have thrown her sideways, leaving her with the list investigators saw. But that did not explain why everyone left a floating ship. Joyita was unusually buoyant. Her hull had cork insulation. Her cargo included empty oil drums. She was difficult to sink. So another theory formed. Panic. Maybe the passengers and crew believed Joyita was going down. Maybe they took to the lifeboats in the dark. Maybe the sea took them after that. But trained sailors knew the rule. A floating ship is safer than small open craft in the Pacific. Then came darker ideas, pirates, a struggle on board, a wounded captain, a mutiny, a collision. Rumors even reached for foreign fishing fleets and Cold War shadows. But each theory left a piece behind. If pirates came, why leave the vessel drifting? If the crew abandoned ship, why take the logbook, sextant, and navigational equipment? If they called for help, why did no one hear them? Every answer opened another door, and every answer left 25 people still missing. The detail that refuses to settle is not one object. It is the decision. Why leave Joyita? The dinghy was gone. The 3 Carly lifeboats were gone. If all 25 people entered them, those small craft would have been crowded and exposed. Open water, no power, no shelter, no guarantee of land. And behind them was Joyita. Damaged, yes. Flooded, yes. But still afloat. That is the point investigators could not escape. The ship was in bad condition, but she was not on the bottom of the sea. Her hull was sound. Her buoyancy was known. Captain Miller should have understood that. So what happened on board that made leaving seem safer than staying? Was it fear? Was it injury? Was it a command from someone who no longer understood the danger? Or did they see something from the deck that made them choose the ocean? The inquiry blamed the condition of the ship. A broken pipe, blocked pumps, bad maintenance, a captain who sailed with too many faults. But the inquiry did not find the people.